Safety is always the number one factor, right? But after safety, we need to make sure we build you a pool that when you look at it from your kitchen window or wherever you're going to look at it from out in the backyard, that you just think, yes, I just love the way that pool looks, because you're going to spend a lot more time looking at that pool than you are actually in the pool. So it's important that it appeals to you aesthetically.
Hello, and once again, welcome to another edition of the Aloha Pools and Spas Deep Dive Podcast. I'm John Watts along with Brad Cook. And before we begin, I want to please ask you if you like and subscribe to us here. Mention in the comments things that you'd like to learn about, things that you would like us to cover, people that you would like us to interview. We'd love to have your feedback as a viewer or listener of the show. And with us today, we have
Rick Black from Latham Pools, and I'm saying Latham Pools, right? I mean, is that what your name is now?
Yeah, Latham Pool Products, or our tagline and branding now is Latham the Pool Company.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, and Rick and I go back to the days when he actually owned his own fiberglass pool company, and I guess with that, I'll ask Rick. Take us through the life of Rick Black leading up to today. Doesn't have to be the extended dance version, but let us know who Rick Black is.
Yeah, well, we'll just focus on the pool history. I did get in the restaurant business for about 8 years after I got out of college, which was great preparatory work for the rest of my life. Just in terms of the restaurant business, it's hard. And you have to go backstage in the kitchen and run that, and then come back out into the show for the customers and the dining room and all that. And you always need to be shiny, happy people. And so that plays out into whatever you do in life. And so with where I ended up in 92, I started a small fiberglass pool company. Actually, I started a small installation and retail store, nothing like the beautiful store that you've got, Brad, but it was a installation and retail store. And was putting in fiberglass pools and vinyl liner pools. And then after some period of time, about 2.5, 3 years, I realized from my perspective and doing some due diligence on the market that there were so many great vinyl liner and concrete builders in the area that for a new guy to find a niche in that world was going to be tough. And so I just decided I was going to focus on fiberglass, really primarily because I just believed in the product. My dad was a NASA engineer, and I grew up kind of with that background. And when you just looked at the product and the material itself, it suits itself very well to be a vessel to hold water forever.
Right.
So anyway, started focusing on that and grew the company, did pretty good with that, sold that. And then had an opportunity to buy the manufacturing company that I was purchasing my fiberglass shells from. So me and two other guys, Ted Baudendistel and Ray Cronice, partnered up and talked the bank into giving us some money. And so we bought that in January of 2000. And our exit strategy from day one was to grow it and sell it to somebody. And we did. And so somewhere in the late 2010, Mark Lavin of Latham Pools contacted us, and we met with him, and after about 10 or 11 months of back and forth, we closed the deal in October of 2011, and it's been a fantastic ride with Latham for the last now 14, 15 years. It's hard to believe it's gone by this fast.
So you sold Trilogy Pools to Latham and then went to work for Latham.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. And we actually, one funny story, or it wasn't funny at the time, but we had at the beginning, we named our company, instead of Trilogy, we started with calling it Duraglass Pools. And we got permission, quote unquote, from Stay Right, because Stay Right had a pump.
Duraglass.
Right. And they said, yeah, y'all can do that. So we did brochures and all this stuff. And then after some period of time, I don't remember whether it was 6 months or a year or something, but they came back and they were very cordial about it. But they said after further review, as they say in college football now, after further review, we would rather you not do that. So then we went through the rebranding again, and began rebranded to Trilogy.
Yeah, and you know, actually, I prefer that for whatever reason. Prefer that name, and it partially because I think the branding kind of sticks in my mind. You know, when you go to a trade show, you can, and you're looking at, say, fiberglass pools, you'll see several manufacturers and several brochures from each manufacturer, and you guys always had the best looking brochures, the best marketing products, or best and best looking pools as well. So, and that I guess that brand has always kind of stood out to me from that standpoint. And it seems like that when Latham bought you guys, they had a pool called Viking Pools. And is that still a brand? It's kind of lives separately, or is it all just Latham now? How does that work?
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing you might find interesting is back to the Trilogy branding. Ray Cronice was in charge of that. And so the size of our brochure, I don't know if you remember, but it was a very large brochure, and it was intentional because then it would be the largest brochure on the table of the homeowner after several builders had been through. And it was actually made to be the exact size of the old vinyl record covers that you slide it in, and which was great looking and all that stuff, but provided a challenge with shipping. So anyway, yeah. So Latham got in the pool started in the pool business in 1956. Gavin Latham, Mark Latham's dad, started it, and then Mark realized prior to 2005 that Latham needed to be in the fiberglass business, that it was a growing sector. And so in 2005, they bought the company you just mentioned, Viking Pools.
Right.
And Viking already had 4 plants, covering most of the country. The Stahl family, who had started in 1976, built a really nice company. And then Latham bought Blue Hawaiian in 2010 and bought us in 2011, bought Royal in 2012. And then most recently, we bought a company out in Oklahoma, Grand Fiberglass Pools. So it's
okay. Wasn't aware of that one. I knew most of those, and they'd kind of forgotten about those as well. So
yeah, it's been a cool journey. The other part of your question was, at this point, those brand names have gone away. We very intentionally took the best practices in manufacturing, materials, processes, and everything from each of those companies, even all the way down to certain things in our installation guide. And but the brand names are gone now, so they're all just Latham Fiberglass Pools.
Right. Yeah. So we talked earlier when I guess I could just go ahead and say we had a podcast with Rick earlier, and there were some technical difficulties, but. So I know the answer to this question, but tell us how you guys came up with all of your designs there at Trilogy back in the day.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. That's one of the things I'm probably most proud of just about what Trilogy did is, and again, Ray was, he got heavily involved in some of the industry trade organizations, and Trilogy ended up having a really strong impact on some of the VGB stuff and all the other codes that were coming down at the time for pool safety. But another thing he did through his endeavors with some of the trade organizations was he got really close to a lot of really, really top-notch concrete or gunite or shotcrete, whatever you want to call it, pool builders. And then Ray realized that nobody in fiberglass was doing what the concrete guys were doing, in the sense of tan ledges and some of those other parts of the concrete pool shell at the time that are integrated into the shell. And so we worked closely with a guy named Dan Johnson, who was the president at one point time of the Florida Pool and Spa organization. Just a fantastic human being. And there were 2 models we had. One was, well, I guess really it was in a sense it was one model, the Picasso and the Gemini, same version, just one was smaller than the other. And Dan drew those up and we replicated them, and man, they turned out to be some of our best sellers. And so there's some other things in there, but primarily some of that conversation back and forth from what you would call peers in the industry. But I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Brad, but there was a time back at that point, late 90s, early 2000s, there was great separation, still is to some degree, between I'm a vinyl guy, I'm a concrete guy, I'm a fiberglass guy, I'm a sand filter guy, And at some point it's like, how about you just be the guy that serves the homeowner the best pool and the best equipment for their backyard? Because if you're a vinyl guy and for whatever reason they don't want vinyl or whatever else, then you're not going to get a check, for one thing, right? But don't push a vinyl or a fiberglass on somebody that doesn't want that. So I think it's been really cool to watch the industry as a whole, I think, mature.
Rick, that is something that I have told my customers time and time again over the past several years, because we do the vinyl pools, gunite pools, fiberglass pools, and we don't do very many gunite, but we do a few. And it's just like what you said. When you come to us, we're not a vinyl guy, or we're not a fiberglass guy, or gunite. We're a pool guy, and so you're not going to get information that is not, that is loaded for our favor. We're getting you're going to get information that is, well, the way I say it is if you're able to afford a pool, you're probably smart enough, given the right information, to pick which one is best for you. And so that's kind of been the way that we've done things for several years, as far as I can remember, at least. So go ahead. You had a question.
Yeah, I was just kind of switching back into fiberglass, and how do you determine the different, like, when you want to make a new design, how do you guys sit down and decide this is, because I imagine it's pretty permanent, it's got to be something that you're going to go with for a while. So how do you determine what designs are going to make it and which ones aren't?
Yeah, well, you definitely have some great insight to what you said on, you really hope you guess right, because a mold is somewhere around $100,000, and if you're trying to put that same mold in 9 plants, then you're at $1 million. And if you're pretty sure it's going to be popular, then you need multiple molds to keep up with the demand. So it's quite an investment. I think it somewhat goes back to the mother of all invention is necessity, right? And so as our sales team, which we've got a really large sales team covering North America, one of the things they'll hear from time to time is, say they go into Brad's store and he says these following words, which I think are great words. You know what would be great? And then usually following that is some idea that he's developed from talking to homeowners. It's like, I could have sold that pool if it was this, or I could have sold another pool if it was this. And so then when the sales team gets together with the designers and the engineers, and they consolidate and collaborate all of that information, then you got to be careful how you put it together. But we've got a great design team, and then typically what will happen is some drawings will come out of that conversation, go back to guys like Brad, and say, "What are your thoughts on this?" And then from there you come up with your design, and then you start spending money.
And lots of money. Oh my God!
Yeah. But one other thing that's kind of cool about this process is that after you get to the point where you have what you think is a final design, and then I won't go through the process of how you build a mold, but one part of that process is you actually build the pool out of wood, if you want to take it down to its simplest. There's new technology that we're using it now. But you build it just like it's going to sit in the ground, and then you build your mold inside of that. The cool part of that is that Brad and I may talk, and he says, I think that bench needs to go from here to here. And then when you build it and you stand in the pool, then you go, I don't think that looks great. So then I can, with today's wonderful technology, I can take a photo with my iPhone, send it to Brad, and he goes, yeah, you're right. Let's take that thing out another 6 inches or whatever. So it's not final till it's absolutely final.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's you know, I'm imagining that as it, you know, as it's evolving, and I think that's pretty interesting because I've never really given that a lot of consideration. You know, you put a bench here, but you guys go back and make adjustments on, you know, on little things like that. And
Yeah.
so is there a rate at which you try to put out a new mold? Like, do you guys say we're not going to do any new modes for the next 2 years, and we're just going to let the ideas come in, or is there, or do you have it intentionally build new molds every year? What does all that look like?
Yeah, I guess a continual process of analyzing the models that are no longer selling or not selling very many. So the term we use for that is, okay, we need to sunset that model. And so somewhere in the August, September timeframe, we need to start letting you guys know that this model's going away, so you don't offer it in the fall and be disappointed in the spring. And then on the other side of that is you're continually trying to analyze, where is there something missing? Where is some new trend come along? Where are we getting those requests from our builders? And then we definitely have changed the idea that we need to come out with a new mold, new model every year. That used to be the mindset, kind of like the car industry. But at some point, we had the epiphany of, if you don't need to build one for some specific reason, then why, just for the exercise, go add something, right?
Yeah, I get it. I mean, the sake, just doing it for the sake of doing it without feeling a need. It's almost like it needs to be the reverse process, which it sounds like what you guys are doing now. If you find the need, and then you know, I guess get some consensus that it is actually a need, and then pursue it. That's kind of what you're doing at this point?
Yeah, and I think with Latham, one thing that's cool is it's across different product categories. So, you know, to bring up a subject that I don't know how many of these you guys are selling yet, but the whole kind of plunge pool phenomenon with the smaller pool with the flat bottom that goes into a smaller backyard. And so over the last, we've added like 4 different, what I'll call regular size fiberglass pool models. But then because of the growing demand for plunge pools, we've got a new line for the plunge pools, both in the fiberglass and in the vinyl liner.
Yeah, and I'll say this: I'd be interested to hear more about that vinyl liner. But I don't know many fiberglass pool names because there are a lot of names, and but I do know one, and it's called the Milan, and that is a 10 by 16 Latham pool, and that just tells you we sell a lot of those.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to call it the Milan because we have a town near here that when I moved back to this Milan, and you know, and then I want to call we have Cairo, Illinois. That I want to call Cairo all the time.
Yeah. So it's the Milan when we have a scratch and dent, and if we discount it, if we sell it for more, it's the Milan.
It's the Milan, yeah. I have a weird question.
Love everybody in Milan. Not saying that.
I have a weird question that might not fit necessarily anywhere, but why are there not patterns on fiberglass like there is vinyl? You know, why I haven't seen and I'm just a dumb consumer. Like I haven't been in the pool industry for years and years like everyone else. So sometimes I ask questions that are weird because I don't know any better. And that's one today. I was just thinking it would be neat if there were different designs, but maybe there's a limitation as to why you can't do that.
Okay, so when you're saying at first when you use the word patterns, are you talking about the pattern like is on a vinyl liner that would be like the colors and all that stuff, or the pattern in terms of a individual model?
Oh
shape?
no, like patterns as far as like just almost just like why can't we paint them or stick, like, you know, we have a neat little border on the vinyl of our pool that has like, you know, a crisscross or whatever, or diamond shapes and that kind of thing. Why are there not? You see different colors of fiberglass, but I've never seen different patterns. And I know that's just a goofy question, but it's just kind of from a consumer standpoint.
Might be a good time to pull up some graphics when he answers this question.
Okay.
Rick.
Yeah, I don't think it's a goofy question, and I'd like to segue too a little bit or reiterate what you said when I'm just a dumb consumer, and it tagging back into what Brad and I were talking about earlier. I really love the word uninformed at some point. You know, if somebody's homeowners, I'm a homeowner, right? So if I'm buying a TV or something, I'm uninformed. I'm counting on the guy at Best Buy to be very informed, become my subject matter expert and my friend, and guide me through the process. And so I think the more a homeowner will go on the internet lightly, look at some stuff, get a vague idea kind of what they think they want, and then engage in conversation with a pool builder and not trust implicitly, right? You still got to do your due diligence as a homeowner, but really absorb what somebody like Brad or some other good pool builders are going to tell them. Then they're going to end up making the best decision. So back to your question. Yeah, there's probably, what do you think, Brad? 200 patterns, colors of vinyl liners between white floor and white floor with border and no border and all the different colors and patterns, right? But I will say this.
Limitless, almost too many.
Yes, because it gets too confusing.
For some people to pick out, yeah.
Right.
Like, I'm telling you, we sometimes have pools sold for a month, and we're like, when we're going to build this pool, and the salesperson will say, well, they're still trying to pick out their liner.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's a lot of options.
Rick, I don't know how far you go back, but back in the early times, there were two patterns. I mean, at least like in the 80s, I think, when my brother-in-law owned the company that it ended up turning into Aloha Pools. I remember two patterns. So anyway, go ahead though, Rick.
Yeah. All right, that's great, man. We can take it right off from there. So when I got in the business in '92, started doing fiberglass, there were basically two colors: white, which was very rarely used, and what we would call sky blue. Right. And that was it, right? And out of the two, between a homeowner choosing white or sky blue, John, what would you think they chose most of the time?
I would imagine sky blue.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it was like the 90-10 rule, right? So then at some point you kind of could start asking yourself, why are we even offering white? And there's some funny stories I could tell you there, but we don't have time in this call. But so over time, more colors got introduced. And so whether you have 200 vinyl liner patterns, you take the 80-20 rule and apply it to that, most of them are not going to get chosen hardly ever. So it comes back into that small percentage. And so on the fiberglass side, we have the industry, not just Latham, not just Trilogy, has expanded the color offering. At one point, Viking had a product for color that you would have loved based on your question, but probably not once you started practicing it, which was Kaleidoscope. And you could go in and pick different particle loadings of different colors and make your own color.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad I never knew that.
I'm glad I wasn't
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So when I was the product director for fiberglass several years ago, somebody said, "What? Can we bring Kaleidoscope back?" And I said, "Let me think about that." No. So anyway, you just get to where you've got, in a sense, way too many colors. And then the last thing I'll say, maybe even more the absolute direct answer to your question, is on a fiberglass pool, the color goes on the mold first. You spray that on the mold, then you build the pool over it. On a vinyl liner pool, you build the whole structure, and then the liner goes in last, right? So if a homeowner at the last minute, up to some point, if they switched on Brad and say, "Man, I don't want that Kaleidoscope cover. I really want a liner. I want that Aloha liner." He might say, "Well, we already had one made. You got to pay for the cost of that liner." But bam, I can switch that for you. Whereas with fiberglass, in for a penny, in for a pound once you build it.
Right. And and the thing about the patterns in vinyl liner pools, it's basically trying to dress itself up as a gunite pool.
Right.
Would you agree with that? Rick, to an extent. Some of them
With
get
the
a little bit
tile
off
and that, yeah.
yeah, the tile border, and then a lot of times there's a granite type of looking floor, if you will, and sometimes there's tile looking floors, and then occasionally the psychedelic looking, like almost like water wave has been a popular thing.
Right.
And Rick, you can chime in on that if you like as well. But it seems like to me that that vinyl liner is just it's done to try to look more like it's Big Brothers. Would you agree with that, Rick?
Yeah. Yeah, we used to say when I was in my hardcore days of everybody should have a fiberglass pool. Why wouldn't you want a fiberglass pool? A fiberglass pool, in every backyard was, we on a fiberglass pool can put the same tile on the fiberglass pool at the water line that is on the concrete pool, right? And then I
didn't know that.
And then I would somewhat degradingly say, and the vinyl guys think so much of it, they put a picture of tile, right?
Oh, nice.
Right.
Yeah.
And so,
Coming
yeah,
at
and
us
so on
hard
the
there.
Latham, what was that, Brad?
I said you were coming at us hard there, weren't you?
Oh, way
Gotta
too much
do what you gotta do,
way
right?
too much bravado at that point in my life. But yeah, so at Latham, one of the things we do is we will actually install the ceramic or porcelain or glass waterline tile at the plant so that Brad or other builders don't have to do that in the backyard. And then we'll also put tile on the steps and benches, which look beautiful and also show where the edge of those are, so it adds a safety factor. And so they're beautiful.
It is. And do you guys change your tiles up occasionally as well? I mean, you limit the offering of tile too, don't you?
Yeah, we just went through a refresh about 4 years ago, and my product manager Brian Adamkowski did a great job going through that. And we got kind of like the sunsetting of models. We sunsetted lots of tile patterns that were just antiquated and brought in what's the newest and greatest beautiful stuff. And I think at this point I think there's 16 different tile offerings and then a set of colors within each of those. So it's still pretty vast, but at some point we just keep going back to the 80-20 rule, right? You put too much stuff out there and we come back and try to narrow it down, not to take things away from the consumer to be able to choose something, but just to keep it from being such a complicated, laborious task to dial into some of those.
There is something to that, just like menu items or what. If you give people too many things to choose, they have this like choice paralysis. It's like a thing. Even Gordon Ramsay, I watch a lot of his shows, and he always slims down menus. It seems because people just end up getting overwhelmed, and it's bad for the restaurant, bad for the customer, everything. So I can see where just having these are your choices.
Yeah, and then when you add that tile, so there's a litmus test that I put all of our pools through. That is basically, if you're looking through our pools on a brochure, when you get to the vinyl pools that have features on them and are built a certain way, and then the fiberglass pools that have the tile on them, it starts to get difficult to tell which type of pool. You have to kind of be a pool guy to know if it is that a fiberglass or a gunite or a vinyl pool. So we sell all types of vinyl pools, but it's always our objective as we're talking to a customer to kind of show them which. It's also part of the education process to getting a potential customer acclimated to what they're seeing, and so we always show them as you upgrade to different types of steps, or you're trying to make the vinyl pool, and we do a pretty decent job of that as well, to look more like a fiberglass or a gunite pool as well. And Rick, I'm not sure that you could look through one of our brochures and with your glasses off, I would think, and be able to see the difference between a fiberglass and a vinyl and a gunite pool. But that tile adding to fiberglass, I think is a very nice look there.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, as you've kind of gotten that, maybe call it a consolidated look or a potential look between the different types of pools, frees the homeowner up to look through Southern Living or whatever magazine and then find those things that are absolutely appealing to them. Because one of the things I used to say when I was sitting at the kitchen table or in the backyard with homeowners, like, benches are important, some of these other things are important. But I think one of the most important things after safety is always the number one factor, right? But after safety, we need to make sure we build you a pool that when you look at it from your kitchen window or wherever you're going to look at it from out in the backyard, that you just think, yes, I just love the way that pool looks, because you're going to spend a lot more time looking at that pool than you are actually in the pool. So it's important that it appeals to you aesthetically. And so then now that we can do that with, the three different types of pools more and more, it gives the homeowner freedom to say, okay, well, tell me what the merits are of the materials themselves and how that's either going to cost me more money, cost me less money, cost me more time to maintain. And then just a free back and forth between the pool professional like Brad and his sales team to say, here's the give and take. And as he said earlier, we're being very transparent with you. We just want you to make the best choice. So we'll give you these education points, and then you guys decide which way you want to go, and whether it's simple or sensational. We just want to be your pool company.
And it's in the customer's best interest, but it's in your best interest, because I tell a lot of our customers in a similar and in kind of a parallel that if we get this thing right and we walk through every little step together and we get this exactly right, there's a better chance that you're going to recommend us, because we've got, there's data out there that says that a pool customer is worth 10 pool customers. There's some number out there that a happy customer has an influence and can sell you over the course of the lifetime of their pool at least 10 pools. So that's a big thing for us as you want them to, yes, you want to look at it and you want to love the choice, and then you just want to also feel like you made the right choice with the right company as well.
Yeah.
So tell us what of these models that you make every now and then, what are you guys making or recently made or thinking thinking that's next in fiberglass pools?
Yeah, well, I'd love your feedback on some of the following statements I'll make here.
Okay.
Rectangle pools, for whatever reason, over the last 10, 15 years have seemed to take on kind of a predominance. For the longest time, everything was freeform lagoon. And so we're continuing to build out more and more rectangles. And then because the tanning ledges or the sun shelves are so popular, it's like you have to put that in there in some way, shape, or form. But then it's kind of cool. I'll come back to freeforms in a second, but it's kind of cool when you you just sit down sometime and just take out a piece of paper and a pen and draw a rectangle. And you say, well, how much can I do to make this rectangle different? I mean, it's a rectangle, for goodness sakes, right? But what's so cool is something I learned back in the early days of Trilogy through somebody, I can't remember who it was, that Ray brought in. They had a book, or I can't remember if it's the name of the book or a chapter. It's called Every Room's a Rectangle. And so it's like in your house, basically every room's a rectangle, but every room's different. And so in that same sense, it's up to the designer to put all those things in there. And then, of course, you can make a rectangle too cluttered. But rectangles will continue to be a big thing, and then not to be self-serving. But automatic safety covers are taking more and more of a presence in the market. And so a rectangle pool suits itself to that automatic safety cover. Yeah. And so those two things can go hand in hand. Of course, I mean, I'm not talking about, in this case, I'm talking about whether it's a fiberglass, a vinyl liner, or a concrete rectangular pool, the same auto cover works on all of them, right? So that's not product specific or brand specific. But I think that's one of the driving factors, because let's face it, safety is a big concern, But in a sense, and I don't want to go too far off on this or any further than you guys want to go. But in a sense, that's a good thing, and it's good for us as an industry to understand parents want nothing more than to provide a safe environment for their children. And so a pool can be an absolutely wonderful, safe environment with just a couple of layers of protection, and whether it's alarms on fences or a safety cover or any of those kind of things. But then back to design. So then the free forms are still prevalent, but our focus here probably, unless something drastically changes in a trend that I don't think you or I are seeing, we'll probably be building more rectangular models.
Yeah, with different appointments on the inside of it. Is that safe to say? And obviously,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So in the plunge pool market, have you feel like you've done all you need to do to build out an offering on the plunge pool? Because I understand that's a growing category.
Yeah, well, so it's cool. On the one hand, with a vinyl liner, you can build whatever somebody wants, right, Brad? If you leave here and go sit down and talk with a homeowner and they say, I want this plunge pool and this is what I want, chances are, particularly with our polymer panels, we could build whatever it is they could draw on that proverbial cocktail napkin. So in the vinyl liner world, we've got, I think it's 5 to 10 really great looking plunge pool models that a lot of thought and design went into. And then we took from those, and there's either 5 to 10 fiberglass models, and the size has kind of expanded. You mentioned the Milan, or how'd you pronounce it, John? Milan?
The Milan.
Milan, yeah, the Milan. I think that's a 10 by 16. And so the plunge pool category is kind of funky in the sense of, you can be looking at an 8 by 16, a 10 by 16, a 10 by 20, a 10 by 18. It's just all that kind of stuff. And then there's one of the key things is a flat bottom, but it can be 48 inches of wall or 52 inches of wall. And so I guess I'll say it, and I don't want this to sound like I'm saying it with too much bravado, but if you look at that offering on the fiberglass side or the vinyl side of just what we've got in place there, that should easily serve 80% of the market. And then the 20% can get taken up with, we'll just have to build that for you out of concrete, or we'll build it for you out of vinyl. But either way, we're going to give you what you want.
Yeah, something that we've been kind of struggling as a company is that our design, we want our stores to look nice and have a great feel coming in. And my niece Chemo said, well, you don't want it to feel like that they can't afford, anything that you sell when you come in. And, but we don't really want to be the place that sells to that top 5% or top 1% of, income earners. And I think really we like to fit in that, maybe that middle 60%. And I don't know if I'm saying that. I probably should look at some data, but if you could imagine, and anytime we take averages on anything of the work we do, we always look at that middle 60%. So I would say 60 to 80% of the population, though, we would love to be able to sell to without getting just ridiculously out of hand.
Makes sense.
We lose our minds on $300,000 pools, so we like to top off at about $150,000. So for whatever that's worth. So, and you guys basically everything you sell is kind of leads to that business model. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. And so many times the pool gets looked at as that the pool itself is what's driving that price to go from, say, $100,000 to $300,000. But you can take the same model fiberglass, vinyl, or concrete pool, and if you do it, I'll call it bare bones, but if you do it in a way that your kids can go out there and swim and play and they're safe and they got a deck and all that, you could take that same, what might be a 40 to 70,000 pool, and it in and of itself can be the exact same vessel holding the water. But you start doing outdoor kitchens and exquisite landscaping and other stuff, that's what drives the cost really high. And then Brad, you guys do above grounds, right?
We do.
Yeah, and so I mean that's one of the used to have a guy named Jeff that was on our marketing team, super sharp guy, and he really clued me into a word that I wasn't focused enough on, and when I was product director and even business development manager, and that word is experience. And I think kind of what you were saying, Brad, when they walk in your store, you want them to have an experience that I feel at home. These guys are going to take care of me, and they can meet me where I am. And so,
Yep.
you know, my little store, John, it was funny. I thought my store was pretty nice. And then I started going around to so many stores like John's and Brad's and others. And so when you walk into Brad's store, and that wonderful yard that you've got outside, right, with all the pools installed so you can actually see what it is that you're purchasing. But in my little store, when you walked in, I had an above ground pool on my right and lots of stuff about above ground pools, and then all the in ground pool stuff on the left. And really, whoever's coming in, they really just want to give their family the experience of being together and having cookouts and a romantic evening around the pool. Right. And ultimately, it doesn't matter whether you're in a above ground pool or whatever pool. When you're on a float and you're listening to some Kenny Chesney and your kids are splashing and playing,
Yeah.
you know, and so to that point, it's like, you know, if you're in the Aloha market area and you go into Aloha store, they're going to be able to meet you where you are and then provide that experience that you're looking for.
That float doesn't know what water it's in. It just knows it's on water.
And if you close your eyes, you can be floating in Cancun if you want to be.
That's exactly right.
Which I got another goofy question. Is there such a thing as a fiberglass above ground? Or does that not exist?
Yeah, the answer is you can do it. Now we're back into the probably 1/2 of 1% of the model.
I was just curious because when you were talking about that, I envisioned a fiberglass above ground. I was trying to, I've never seen one in person.
You know, I was going to let Rick answer that, and it looked like I had seen somebody try to enter the semi-in-ground pool market with some sort of version of a fiberglass pool, but there's got to be some structural, a lot of structural stuff going on the second half of the the part that's sticking out of the ground, and I can say that the work that would go into that would probably be exchanged for the money that it would take to just put it in the ground. And Rick, you might can opine on that yourself, but I would think that would be the case.
Again, goofy.
I like that question. You got your share of goofy ones, but
I know. Yeah, that's true.
That was pretty good.
Wait till I get to above ground concrete. It's a whole lot of pouring.
Well, Rick, I guess we're coming up on the time that we normally try to close things out here, and I just wondered if you had any closing thoughts on people who might be listening out there that are trying to figure out what to do, what kind of pool to get, how to, and who to see if they want a pool.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to a little bit what we were touching on earlier. And I would say, first of all, slow down. If you've decided you want a pool, then take the time to get some information. Don't get in a hurry, and gather, like I said, as much information as you can. Go to somebody like Brad or somebody on his sales team, and then have that conversation about what you want, and then and be open to hearing. Well, you might think you want that. But let me tell you what some other people have said that have had that experience. And if you want it, we'll do it. But at least give you that to take into consideration. And then, as Brad was saying, go to Aloha Pools and get the information there. And then I'll say this, and Brad may kick me later for saying this, but I would say, spend some time thinking through the process. Do your due diligence, not on just the model and the color that you're choosing, but the process of executing that in your backyard, and try to become realistic with this pretty massive construction project that's going to happen back there while you live in it, and give yourself, some grace to let the pool builder do their thing. And whether it takes, depending on what model you select, 2 weeks or 2 months or 4 months or whatever it takes, just know that they're going to build it right. And whatever time frame you get frustrated in that building part is going to be far outweighed by the years of enjoyment you're going to get from it.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to see that while you're in the middle of it and your yard looks like a bomb went off in it, you know.
Yeah, well, it's not just the pool industry either. It's like you can go to a really nice restaurant and they tell you it's going to be a 20-minute wait and it's a 40-minute wait, and everybody starts getting anxious and all that. And then you sit down and you have a great meal and it's like, why did I get so torn up about that?
Right. Yeah, when you were saying that, it got me to thinking that one thing, if I could advise a potential customer to, when they start this process, so a lot of people have come to us being very price conscious, and they work on that. They're constantly working on that price, and let's you talked on automatic pool cover, okay?
Yeah.
So I've had a customer to come back to me and say something. I'm going to use automatic pool covers as just an example, because I don't know that I've truly had a customer to say it. I kind of feel like I had. I wish you would have told me about that automatic pool cover, because I would have definitely had one. Obviously, their friend got a pool with an automatic pool cover, so now they had some, remorse that they didn't, they didn't buy the thing, but they were, for a salesperson, we're in a tough situation. Well, one, we're salespeople. You can't trust me. Look at this. Right? How could you trust me, right? And so when you're trying to gain trust and you can't, and somebody's saying, hey, money, and you say, here's $20,000 for this, like, you're not listening. I said money.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I don't even offer somebody some of the things that maybe they would want, because my signals are that they're trying to get a pool for the lowest price that they can.
You don't want to seem like you're upselling.
Yeah, and it really kind of hurts me that I allow that to happen. So I allow them to not let I won't show them everything, and I don't know. I don't know how to advise a customer basically on that. I guess I'm trying to get the best price that I can, but I need to see all my options too, because I'm still learning that. You see what I'm saying there, Rick?
Yeah, I think it's great, and takes me back to a guy that used to talk about the selling process. His name was Lou Akins, and he would give an example as if the three of us went to eat somewhere, and the waiter looked over at the three of us, and it's like, those knuckleheads can't afford this and this, and they just started taking things off the menu, right?
Right.
Rather than bringing us the menu and say, hey, we've got a lot of really great food here for you, and whatever you right. And another key thing I think in that, and we were talking about tile earlier on a pool, which there's a cost, a price to that, and then your automatic safety cover. But it's also interesting from two perspectives. One is when I was selling pools, and again, it's a long time ago, so the numbers don't match today in a sense, right? But people would say, man, I don't want to pay that $800 for that automatic pool cleaner.
Right.
And I would say, okay, well, we're financing this pool for 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, whatever. That cleaner costs you $3.42 a month, right? Or that automatic safety cut, you're not. And so in the same sense, it's like, let's look at the realistic part here, because let's say your kids are 3 and 5 or 5 and 7. So you got a window of time to empower them to experience this backyard environment. It's so cool, right? So if you say, I'm going to wait 10 or 12 years to when I can quote unquote afford that, well, you're not getting that time back with the kids, right? Exactly. And so the other thing I'll touch on before we have to close up here is, for the salesperson to advise what has to be decided now, back to John's point in the fiberglass pool, you need to nail the color, right?
Right.
Color's not an option. We got to know that now. But you don't have to put on tile now. You don't have to put on a slide now. Technically, what you could do, Brad, too, is like on the automatic safety cover, you could say, if you don't want to spend $20,000, I can charge you $3,500 or whatever the math would be, and I can put in the phase one, and then you can come back 10 years from now and put in the cover. So what are those things that are decisions, and what are those things that are options? And then what are the things that are $3.42 a month? And it's like, well, if I would have known that, I'd have bought the cover, right?
Oh, and that's a very good point. That's a very good point to look at it from the payment perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
They've been selling.
Go ahead.
They've been selling cars to us like that forever, right? So,
That's
yeah,
very true.
yeah.
Very
And that
true.
new Drive Time app where you can sit there and just slide it back and forth to get the payment that you want on the car you want or whatever. I've not done it, but looks like a pretty cool app.
Yeah.
There's your next app, Brad.
Gosh, I love this. Yeah, this is great. You know, I'm glad we redid this because I think we got a lot of good information for people to consume and a lot of things for them to consider as they're going out shopping for their backyard paradise there. So
This one's made me hungry, though.
appreciate you.
We've had so many restaurant analogies.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Appreciate
go
you
to
taking the time to chat with us again. Go ahead. What you were saying there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to be a bit self-serving, Latham has a great website. There's a lot of cool stuff on there. There's one page you can even go in and on a fiberglass pool, you can change the color of the pool and you can change the tile and you can move them back and forth till you find a combination that you like. But there's just a lot of great stuff. And so there's
See the look of
nothing.
the water.
Yeah, and there's nothing that you're going to, and I'm talking directly to the homeowner now, there's nothing that you're going to buy on that Latham website, but it can help empower you and inform you
Right.
for when you go have your conversation with Brad and his team.
Yep. When you come to our website, right?
Yes. Or go to Brad's first, and hopefully, if he's my best friend, he has a link on his website to our website.
If we don't, shame on us. If
Yeah.
we don't, we will. I promise you that.
Yeah, we will
I'm pretty
before
sure.
this even airs.
Pretty sure
I
we'll do.
assure you that if we don't.
We'll make sure. Right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. We've got a new website, and it's getting a little bit more robust by the week. So to educate customers before they ever have to come and talk to somebody like me. So
Let me say one other thing too, Brad, if you don't mind. Again, to the homeowners, you guys started Aloha Pools when?
Well, my dad built us a pool in 1969, so that's kind of when the family got in the swimming pool business. But yeah, technically, the Aloha was named. The family company named it in 1990.
Okay.
Yeah. A
So
mere
for
35 or 6 years. Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things I want to point out too is just, you got Latham, who's been around since 1956, Aloha, whether you say 1969 or 1990 or however the formalization and evolution of that came. But if you're a homeowner listening to this, I would suggest or recommend, or as Rush Limbaugh used to say, offer for your consideration that you want to select a pool builder that's made it through a lot of industry changes and tough times in the economy. Because those changes are going to continue to happen. Economies are going to continue to challenge us. And there's a lot of Johnny-come-latelys out there that have a truck and a couple of shovels, and you might get a cheaper price from those guys, but you want to buy your pool from somebody like Aloha that as you own that pool for the next 20 and 30 years and you experience the enjoyment of it, then when you need help or helping hand, you can call somebody and their phone number's not going to be disconnected.
Well, and while we're self-serving, I have to tell you, Rick, we officially had to reluctantly turn down our first customers this year for service. That they didn't buy their pool from us, but we've built so many pools that our service department is now just focusing on, and we've got customers that have grandfathered in, but focusing on the pools that we built. So our focus now is to give excellent customer service to the people who buy pools from us, and that allows us our. And I don't know how familiar you are with the service business, but it's kind of a thankless part of the business. There's not a lot of money that goes to the bottom line, and the customer that's listening to that says, "Well, I just paid blankety blank to open my pool or whatever." We'll argue that, but when you see behind the curtain, it's not, and so whoever you align with, expect to get your service, from them. And I think that, and hopefully that'll be us, and hopefully it'll be a Latham product. How about that?
Sounds great. Either way, whether it is or not, if you have a great experience as a homeowner, and when you go to church or you go to the ball field and you tell people how much you love your pool, then perhaps that person goes and they do their own due diligence, and maybe if you didn't pick a Latham, maybe they do. We basically just want people to have great experiences with swimming pools.
That's it.
Great.
I appreciate you much.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, Brad. Good to see you guys.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
Thanks for coming on. And with that, I think we wrap up another edition of the Aloha Pools and Spas Deep Dive Podcast. Again, thank you for joining us, Rick, and we look forward to seeing you again maybe in the future sometime. And for you watching at home or wherever you may be, again, we encourage you to like, subscribe, ask us questions below, give us thoughts about things that you would like to see below. Shoot us a message on almost we're on pretty much all the social medias out there. So hit us up there or on the podcast, or call 800-ALOHA-51. How many different ways are there to contact us? There's infinite amount of ways.
Way too many.
Way too
for our
many.
hard stop here at 10 o'clock.
How about you just message our service department and say, I want to be on the podcast? No, I'm just never mind. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. Again, thanks. And like we say every time, dive safely.